I got to correct myself, not for something said on the air, but off the air. I was chatting with Jim Heuer. We were talking about catchers because I'm obsessed with catchers and who the Cardinals might look at. And Toronto's got a couple of them that they've made it clear they're willing to listen to offers for. I already talked about Alejandro Pena, and then there's also Danny Jansen. And it's so weird to see a team with so much of a catching surplus. But their top prospect, who is ready because he was in the majors last year a little bit, I forget his name, Montero maybe, something like that. Doesn't matter what his name is. But the two guys they have available, reportedly, Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk, and it's interesting. So what I was wrong about, I was looking at the caught stealing rates, and I misread the line on Danny Jansen, thinking it was like this past season. So anyway, both of these guys threw out about 26-27% of base stealers last year, and that's not bad. The major league average, as a matter of fact, in let me find it here, and I apologize. The major league average is about 26%. So both of these guys were average or slightly above average in 2022. I haven't looked up the metrics yet on Jansen, and I will, but not going to do it on live radio because at Baseball Prospectus, it's all there, but you got to sort through it. It takes a little time. But I was mentioning earlier that Alejandro Kirk's metrics are great, just absolutely great. In fact, in terms of fielding runs above average at the catcher position, he was ranked number 3 in all of baseball last year, and also scored very high in framing and blocking and all those good things. So he's a proven commodity defensively. His offense is above average. He did fine last year, although if you're looking for caution flags, if that's the term, he was an above average player for the season offensively. Hits for power, not massive power, but he hits for power. Gets on base a lot. I'm talking about, again, Alejandro Kirk. Gets on base a lot. He has got a high walk rate and a very, very, very low, as in around 10-11% strikeout rate. So I like that. But if you're looking for something to nitpick, and I don't know if it's nitpicking because it's a catcher position, they DH'd him a lot. Talking about Kirk, his numbers offensively in the second half were not good at all. I mean, it was a big drop-off. I don't know what it means. I don't cover the Blue Jays. I'll try to find out more. But he made the All-Star team because in his first half of the season, fantastic numbers. And then it was just kind of like, whoa, he's rolling down the hill. What happened, So I don't know what went on there and whether that is an indication of maybe – could it have been that he wasn't quite that good as he looked in the first half and the pitchers caught into something? I don't know. I gotta go diving in much deeper on that. I don't have any answers for you. Now, if you look at the other guy, first of all, Kirk is 24 years old, and he would not be a free agent until the 2027 season. The other guy that they're willing to move, Danny Jansen, is 27 years old, and he's on the way. He's on the way to a faster route to free agency. If the Cardinals would trade for him, and I'm not saying they are, by the way. I don't want anyone to consider this some kind of like half-ass prediction. It's not. We're just looking at catchers that are either free agents or credible news reports that indicate they're available from their teams at the right price. I don't know what the price is. I'm just passing along this stuff, and we're doing quick scouting reports, preliminary scouting reports. So with Jansen, and I don't have his defensive metrics. We'll get back to that maybe even tomorrow a little bit. But he, last season he had 260 or 215 at bats. He hit 15 home runs. And he slugged .516, and his OPS plus was 141. And, I mean, that's a really nice year. And really the best year he's had, although in 2021 he was also above average. Not as much as 41% as he was his past season, but so he's been above average 2 years in a row. Now, these guys shared time, and unfortunately they're both right-handed hitters. So I'm thinking, which one's the left-handed bat? But they're both right-handed hitters, so there's some redundancy there. So I just wanted to mention both of those guys because they seem like really good candidates if the Cardinals want to go the trade route. Rather signing Wilson Contreras, I'd be very, very surprised, especially with the draft choice compensation in there too, and the fact that the Cardinals have done a good job in kind of a whispering campaign. I've been in business a long time. I always know when there's a whispering campaign. It's really obvious to somebody like me who's just been on the other end of a whispering campaign. The Cardinals done a really good job on a whispering campaign, just trying to reduce whatever enthusiasm there is for Contreras. And I joke about it on the air, so I'll joke about it again. It's like, well, you got to get the word out. This guy could barely catch a baseball. We're very alarmed. It's like a miracle that he actually catches a pitch. And you got people that just pick up on that and run with it, and it's like, well, he's way below their standards defensively. No, he's not. He's not a good framer. That's what it comes down to. But with that automated strike zone on the way, what difference does that make? But I'm not going to sit here and make some big fuss over Contreras. I've done that a lot. But if the Cardinals are not willing to go the free agent route, and they probably won't be with him. Now, if you want to sell them a free agent, you want to see them swoop in and pick up a cheap free agent who's got a name, and therefore you'll be able to reel in most of the media and a lot of the fans. Oh, they got to get that Jacob Stallings. Oh, they got to get that Tucker Barnhart. He's a scrapper. The Cardinals would have to trade for Stallings, who is just absolutely just close to worthless as could be offensively. And his defense is overrated. I think pitchers like him too. Then again, we hear that about Andrew Kisner. I don't know why they like him. Andrew Kisner is one of the worst pitch framers in Major League Baseball. He just certainly doesn't help the pitchers out as far as getting them extra strikes. And he hits $170 or whatever it is. So why do they like him so much? Because he's a nice guy? We got to end the nice guyism in St. Louis with the Cardinals. I'm telling you, that's one of my little mini campaigns. It's okay to have a badass or two on your team. Not everybody, should. Not everyone, has to be like a strong candidate for like the humanitarian award. Okay, it's okay to have a guy who's kind of a hard ass. It's all right. Anyway, but I always love that, and I've talked about it a lot, so I apologize for doing it again. But it always is like, well, the pitchers like Kisner. And my answer to that is like, why? It's like, you got a guy now near the bottom of pitch framing, and he's not very good at blocking. So not only does he not get you extra strikes called, he actually gets you less or fewer strikes called based on where the location of the pitch is, and he doesn't hit. Oh, they really like Kisner. Wow. Raise the standards, fellas.
Yes.
Let's go.
Please.
The Cardinals are so content with a certain prototype, and I don't know that they'll ever be able to win a championship until they get a little better mix of personalities or something, and that's another one of my thing, and I know I go on about that all the time. So anyway, the two guys in Toronto appear to be attractive candidates if they're looking to trade. Sean Murphy would be the number one candidate. And I tell you who the Cardinals are going to have to beat out. Although there's enough catching to go around if these guys are all available, as has been reported many times. The two in Toronto, the one in Oakland. They're going to have to beat out the Cleveland Guardians, who are hot on the trail of doing something about their catching position. So the Cleveland Guardians have prospects to deal. Cardinals have more, though. But it's just a matter of whether this is going to be another offseason of, holding on to the Fabergé eggs. And it's like, no, you can't touch them. You can look here, but you don't come any closer. Get away from the display case. We're not moving any of these Fabergé eggs. I used to make fun of that back in the 90s when they had all these prospects and Jeff Luhnow wouldn't trade. He said, no, we can't trade him. Why? Oh, we can't trade him. Like Manny Ibar, for example.
Oh, boy, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So sometimes the Cardinals got these Fabergé eggs, and they really guard them. They're Dobermans, man. They guard them with their life. And then the Fabergé eggs don't turn out to be all that much. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I do think the Cardinals have some damn fine Fabergé eggs now, but let's see. If you're not going to raise the payroll that much, and I totally believe they're not going to raise the payroll that much. Derek Gould had an interesting story today in STL Today. Read it. Because, you go out there and you have your meeting with Arenado, and, apparently you told him what he wanted to hear, and he's all excited. Oh, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Okay, we'll wait and see. I hope so. I hope you're right, Nolan. But this whole idea is like, well, we're definitely going to spend more. Our payroll's definitely going to go up. You know what my first reaction was on this show to that? How much? What are we talking about? And already I get a sense there's some backtracking. It's, again, coded messaging, whispering campaign type stuff. So for people thinking this thing's going to get to 190 or 195 or something like that, Derek estimates right now it's about 163, 164, maybe 165. And then he points out, but then, hey, they're going to, you got arbitration guys and all this other stuff. So Derek thinks, and he quoted a source, wonder who that might be, that you could be looking at about 180 million, maybe a little more. Let's see, 180 minus 165. I don't know. What is that, Jim? Help me out.
It's under the 20, so you said 180?
Yeah, see, this is my way of seeing if you're paying attention.
Yep, so that would be about 15 million more?
Yeah, 15 million more, maybe 17. So what the hell are you going to do with that?
That's a good point.
So if and I totally believe and trust Derek's reporting, and when he sourced it, that was the clincher because I know where that's coming from, and that's what I'm talking about. The backtracking has already started. Not that I thought that they would do what other championship aspiring teams do. If you look in the National League. The teams that made the playoffs, I think the Cardinals were the only one under, 200 million, and they weren't even close to that. They were 12th overall. So I'm not quite sure what this big, huge, exciting purchase or two will be when you've got not all that much to work with. So I don't know whatever you told Nolan Arenado, but if you told him, oh, yeah, that guy in New York, that's Steve Cohen? Yeah. Yeah. We're going after him. We're going to trade. We're going to throw dollars down. No, Arenado's going to be asking for a trade. I'm only being facetious about that. But anyway.
Starting it off. You started it.
Speaking of some good stuff here. I like to pass along good information, and Dave Solomon just handed some over. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado win the NL Silver Slugger Awards, and my guy, Alejandro Kirk wins it, the Silver Slugger, American League catcher. But he's 5'8", and he's kind of like, he's big for his size. This guy's a joke. I read that all over STL today. So,
well, big guys can play too. I'll just say that.
I don't think that he's big as in fat. He just has a kind of an unusual body. That's all. Got a lot of muscle packed onto that frame.
Yes, he does. I didn't notice this. I didn't know this because I, like you, I haven't watched a lot of the Jays. But when you were giving out numbers, he's one of the few guys that has more walks than strikeouts.
Yeah, he's amazing that way. It's great.
That's
he doesn't strike out. He just doesn't, hardly ever.
Got to welcome that to your life.
Yeah, you would think. Get some people on base, right?
Yes.
And even his on-base percentage in the second half of the season, I mentioned how his stats had dropped off. But his on-base percentage was still quite respectable. So I like a guy like that when he's in a power funk and it's not happening, and he's hitting into bad luck and his stats are dropping, batting average, slugging, dropping, and you're like, what's wrong with this guy? And then you look and you see that he's still taking quality at bats because he's not striking out more and he's still walking at a really healthy rate. I like guys like that because they don't go over the cliff. They just don't lose it altogether when they have the inevitable slump where they just fall apart. He doesn't seem to be that kind of guy, even though, again, his numbers were down after the All-Star break. So, we could talk catchers a lot. I kind of like it. I don't know what they're going to do. I suspect it'll be the trade route. I tell you what, if their idea of an upgrade is Tucker Barnhart, you will see that will be proof of that all this talk about increasing payroll is just another hustle. Yeah, they're going to increase payroll, but you're increasing it by what, 10 million? If you increase it by 10 million, technically, well, we told you we're going to increase payroll. If you increase it by 5 million, well, we told you we're going to increase payroll. I need to know how much they're going to increase it by before I'm like, oh, good Cardinals. See, they're committed to winning. Nah, I need more proof. I give them the benefit of the doubt a lot, and will continue to do so when I think it's appropriate. But no, I see the trend in baseball, and actually the teams that spend, not all of them, but the teams that spend and have made good moves are the ones getting into the postseason and are the ones that have positioned themselves to go deep into the postseason. And the Phillies are an example of that. And I don't care that they won 87 regular season games. I don't want to relitigate all that, but it's just stupid to consider them some mediocre team. Once they fired a terrible manager who had the whole clubhouse uptight, they played really good ball the rest of the year. They had some turbulence in September. But you know what? So did the St. Louis Baseball Cardinals. So, but when they had to win in September, because people act like the Phillies were like 1-29 or something. When they had to do it, when it was go time, when they had to nail that final spot down, they won 4 out of 5 on the road. So, anyway, but no, I think you need to spend. But you know why? You know why? I'm telling you, one of the reasons they are reluctant to go big, okay? There's two things. They tried to do it with Hayward, and he did them a favor by saying, no, thank you, I'm going to Chicago. And so the Cubs had to be stuck with that awful contract and finally let him go. And then you had, the David Price thing where the Cardinals thought they had him, and then Dave Dombrowski and the Red Sox swooped in and got him. There have been other examples, but those are the two most prominent ones. But you know why? That's one of the reasons why they're reluctant to go in big, because they were really close to getting scorched with contracts that they would have deeply regretted. But the other reasons are Dexter Fowler, 5 years, $82.5 million. Mike Leake, 5 years, $80 million. Fowler, just to get him out of here, they paid the Angels $14.5 million last season, before last season, to take him on. So they ate the money of his final year, basically, just about all of it. Mike Leake, he lasted less than 2 years. 5 years, $80 million, $16 million a year. It was before the 2016 season that they did it. By late August of 2017, he had been relocated to Seattle. Not only relocated to Seattle, but the Cardinals had to pay the Mariners $15 million to defray a big chunk of his remaining salary, right?
Yes.
So the Cardinals had to eat $15 million when they traded Leake, and they had to eat $14.75 million when they traded Dexter. So let's just round it off and say $30 million of money flushed down the toilet. This also explains why you're still reading quotes from John Mozeliak talking about, Paulie knows in spring training. Paulie knows that, something's got to change. Well, why would Paulie know that? It doesn't. He's one of the factually and statistically one of the worst, as in bottom 6 or 7 hitters in the majors over a 2-year period, and you keep bringing him back with the same spin. Well, he found something down there in Memphis, or he's been working with this guy. And this guy really, he feels like he found something. He's one of the worst hitters in baseball, and it's not even debatable. But so when you say, well, Paulie knows something's got to change. Oh, does he? He's been getting paid.
Yeah.
He could hit 092 and he'll still get paid. So what are you talking about? Well, Paulie knows. No, he doesn't. Paulie's laughing. Not really laughing. He wants to do well, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's going, hey, they're still paying me.
So if you want to, if you can also, but if you want to like be mad that he's still on the team and they apparently do not want to flush $9 million down the toilet by releasing him or whatever, hey man, blame it on the bad Fowler contract, the bad Leak contract, Johnny Peralta. Although, listen, Johnny Peralta was good for a couple years. He really was.
Yeah, he just lost it there at the end.
He lost it very, very quickly. It might be, the Flintstone vitamins that, weren't as effective anymore. I don't know. But they signed him to a 4-year, $53 million contract. That was before the 2014 season. And he made $13.25 million per year. They designated him for assignment in, I think it was like June of his final year. So they had to eat a portion of his salary. Another reason why they're reluctant to throw around free agent money, Steven Matz, the 5th highest contract they've ever given up, which is just given out. It's just stunning to think that. 4 years, $44 million, $11 million. That may pay off, but let's just say 2022, not exactly what you would call a flying start, right?
No doubt. Questions there for sure.
They're afraid. I believe they actually have anxiety because since Matt Holliday, with that great contract that worked out great for both sides, 7 years, $120 million back before the 2010 season, that they have gotten burned over and over and over again. They've gotten burned outside free agents. They've gotten burned with relief pitchers, signing them. Brett Cecil, 4 years, $30.5 million. Signed a 4-year deal. He only pitched in 2 of the 4 seasons. Walked away with set for life financially. Andrew Miller, who I have great respect for, but that turned into a 3-year deal, $34.5 million. He wasn't worth that. I mean, I could go right down the list, way back, but I don't want to go back too far. And they've done well. I mean, they did well with the Beltran contract. They did well with the Jason Isringhausen contract. That's going way back. They did good with Supan and Reggie Sanders and Kyle Loesch. So they've done well. I'm not going to say they've never signed a good free agent. But I'm talking about in recent times. Beltran would be the success story, but it was only 2 years. They haven't. They've been burned repeatedly. And don't you think that this gives them, John Mozeliak and Gersh and DeWitt, a lot of apprehension about going down that path again? I do. I absolutely do.
Well, I would think they would definitely have to question that because, look, every time there's even that whole pack of relievers they brought in last year, that those were awful. By the way, we got a question on the text line.
Yeah.
Well, and a suggestion was Luke Gregerson was another name, but
except that I'm not going to defend them, but that was not a multi-year contract at a lot of money. They took a flyer on him, and was it a waste? Yeah, but that's just at a much lower scale. And I think when they signed him, I think most of the locals were pretty fired up by that.
Yeah.
So you also have to remember that too.
The question is, Bernie, should we be worried that Alex Reyes and Drew Verhagen were added to the roster, 40-man roster?
Well, I'm gonna attribute this to the great Derek Gould, who wrote in the piece that was on STL Today late last night and then today, that the Cardinals are. He basically said the Cardinals are giving more and more and more consideration to not keeping Reyes on the 40-man. Like, in other words, that's not over yet. They may decide to remove him. So.
Yeah, that was a question.
Verhagen, they'll never admit that mistake because they hyped this guy. I thought that they had signed Verlander or something, the way they were talking about this guy,
Yeah.
Well, in Detroit, he was this, he was that. Oh, they got Verlander. Oh, no, it's Drew Verhagen, who had a terrible ERA the entire time he was in Detroit.
Yes.
Got someone to talk him in. See, that's another one. What were they thinking?
I can't answer that one. I have no answer for that one, Bertie. Sometimes you can come up with, well, maybe they saw this. This one, nothing. I got nothing.